And welcome to Let's Get Pregnant. I'm so excited to have you guys here. This is a topic that is so near and dear to my heart because I've been through it. We've struggled through it the first time and we're going through it again. Or not the struggle piece. We are so excited to be going through it with all the experience and the knowledge that we've been through before, and now to be able to share it with you guys. So I'm ready to dive in. All right. So, for anyone who doesn't know me, I am Dr. Kimmy Chernicki. I am a certified pediatric and prenatal chiropractor, and I love getting to talk about everything from preconception through toddlerhood, which is why I created From Bump to Bundle, because I love walking through this journey with you guys. I am a wife and mama. My little one is 2 years old now, and my husband, who you see in that picture there, he and I actually practice together. So, we are both chiropractors. I focus more in the pediatric and prenatal population, and he sees kind of everyone else. He loves seeing athletes, especially. And I also consider myself an advocate for the health of our next generation. So while I love talking with mamas about getting pregnant and having a healthy pregnancy and birth, I really concern myself with you guys because I know that having a healthy pregnancy sets you up for a healthy baby so that baby can have a healthier foundation. So that's really why I'm here talking to you guys about this today. All right. And like I said, we've been through this before. So our journey was not a super short one. I'm sure everyone goes into it expecting that, oh, on their first try or two, you're going to get pregnant. And for a lot of us, that is not the case. And for us, that definitely was not the case. So happy ending is that we did get pregnant and it went really, really smoothly. Birth was awesome as well. But the start of our conception journey, I guess, was riddled with lots of stress. Stress was really the biggest thing that was keeping us from getting pregnant. Just lots of things going on. And until I started implementing all the things that I'm going to talk about today, we struggled for almost a year. Like I said, happy ending is we did get there, but I want to make sure that you guys don't go through those same struggles that we went through if we can avoid them. All right, so the plan, because we're not just here for one day, we're going to do 3 days. They're going to be about 30-minute videos. I'll try to be a little brief. Sometimes I tend to get very wordy. But day one, so today we are going to talk about how we got here. How did we get in a place where so many of us are struggling with fertility challenges? And then we're going to talk about emotional stressors. Day two, we're going to talk about chemical stressors because there are a lot more than you think there are. And day three, we're going to talk about physical stressors and your action plan going forward, what you guys should be doing as a couple to move forward. So let's go ahead and dive in. So, my first question is, what is your focus in this journey? So many of us, once we get that baby bug, we are focused 100% on getting pregnant. But the fact of the matter is, if we would focus on being healthy first, we have a much more likely chance of getting pregnant at all and then also having a healthy pregnancy, birth, and baby. I've joked about calling this webinar How to Get Healthy 101 because really the things that I'm going to talk to you about today are things that I would tell anyone who's trying to live a healthier life. Of course, we're going to give it a little spin that's more focused on conception, but it's really just how to be healthy. So we're going to talk about all those things there for you. All right. So, a lot of you who are watching this probably haven't come to that diagnosis of infertility, which is not diagnosed until you've been trying and not getting pregnant for over 1 year. So, a lot of us will get pregnant before then, or we'll get frustrated and start looking for answers before then. But let's just assume you've reached that infertility diagnosis. A lot of times when you sit down with your doctor and you say, "Why am I infertile? Why are we struggling?" They give you any number of reasons. They say there's a low sperm count. They might say there's low progesterone. They might say you have a failure to ovulate, maybe poor implantation into the uterine wall, low sperm motility, autoimmune disease that can definitely affect your fertility, hormone imbalance, or things like PCOS. Now, this list could go on and on. There are actually hundreds of diagnosable reasons for infertility, all of these things in this category here. But the thing is, these are all effects themselves. So we try to call them a cause of infertility, but they all have their own cause. You don't just wake up one day and have PCOS for no reason. You don't just wake up one day and have low sperm motility for no reason. They have their own cause. So we have to make sure that we are addressing the original cause so that it doesn't create an effect that then creates your infertility. Those are the things that we're talking about today. So, what it all boils down to, like I said, hundreds of diagnosable reasons for infertility are three different things. So, you have three different types of stressors that come into your body, and you can have either too much of these things, too much of the bad things in your system, or too little of the good things in your system. Whether you go too much or too little, it can create an imbalance which affects your health. So, whenever stress comes into your body, there are three different types of stress. And this is how we've separated the days over the next 3 days. First, you have your thoughts, which are your emotional stressors. This is what you normally think of when you say the word, I'm stressed. Next are your toxins. These are your chemical stressors, and we'll talk about those tomorrow. And then your last are your traumas or your physical stressors, and that's what we'll talk about on day 3. So today, let's talk about your thoughts or your emotional stressors. All right. So, something we do in our office, I'm kind of jumping ahead to something we do in our office as chiropractors, is we do scans to see how the nervous system is functioning. And I know that you probably don't really know what these scans mean, but on the surface level, you can probably assume that being in the green is a good place to be and being in the red is not. So these are actually my scans before I got pregnant. So the one on the left, the before picture, is about 2 weeks before I got pregnant. I had the most immense stress I had had in a really, really, really long time. And then the after picture was actually maybe a couple days before we conceived. So we'll talk about on day 3, we're going to talk about why it was able to jump so quickly, because a lot of people are going to have a hard time making that shift so quickly. But all the things that I had set up in place in order to get there were so important. But it was really that stress piece, that emotional stress that was keeping me down in the bottom left red corner. So what are the things that you guys can be doing to change your stress level? Some of the big stressors that we deal with in our life are simply a fear-based mentality. So I know a lot of us kind of underestimate the effect of this, but going into the attempt to get pregnant, hearing all the horror stories about, oh my gosh, you're going to be so uncomfortable. Oh, birth is the worst. I never want to do it again. All these things that make us subconsciously fearful of the pregnancy and birth journey, that alone can affect your ability to get pregnant because of the stress that it creates for you. And this is the biggest one really, is just that general high stress lifestyle. It's not really a surprise. We all talk about how the world is very go, go, go right now. Almost all of us are stressed to the max. So what are some of those things that we can be doing to lower these? Some of the bad habits we do that make this worse are not enough self-care, and we'll talk about self-care in just a minute. Inadequate sleep, we'll talk about tips on how to get better sleep. And then also heavy tracking, which I know seems counterintuitive when you're trying to get pregnant. You really want to track things, but we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so talking about self-care. First of all, I want you guys to know self-care is not selfish. The only way that you can pour into other people, whether that be your spouse, your other children, your family, friends, work, the only way you can pour into them what you want to be pouring into them is if you have it to give. So you have to pour into yourself first. Some of the best examples of self-care, and of course, self-care looks different for everyone. Kind of a blanket statement is self-care should be whatever brings peace to your life. So that's why it looks so different for everyone. One of the best things for self-care is exercise. Not only is it really, really great for your happy hormones, it's also just great for your overall health. We'll talk about exercise again in a little bit. Another great form of self care is meditation. And a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at me when I talk about meditation because maybe you've tried it and it didn't really resonate with you. All I can say is that there's no right or wrong way to meditate. You just have to find what works for you, and there are tons of different ways to do it. So find something that works for you. There are apps that help you. You can find YouTube videos that will help you. Just find something that helps bring more peace into your day, peace and calm into your day. Reading a book. This is a really great thing, and we'll talk about another reason why this is great in a minute. Celebrating mini wins. So something we do, wins and then also gratitude. So something we do is every day when we sit down for a meal together as a family, we say grace and then we say one thing that we're thankful for in the day. So we don't just wait for Thanksgiving to do that. We do that every day. And my husband and I will also go back and forth at bedtime, and I'll say, tell me something good today. And he'll tell me something, and he'll ask me, tell me something good today. And we'll go back and forth. And I just think that's a really great way as a family to be able to celebrate the good and, express the gratitude. And that's something that brings so much peace into our life. I already talked about that. Church, of course, this depends on what your preferences are, but church can definitely bring lots of peace into your life. Essential oils, that's another great one, especially lavender can be very calming. Citrus oils can be very energizing, which can bring lots of peace to someone's life. So that can be another great form of self-care. And oils in general, this is not an oils class, so we're not going to go too deep, but find someone who knows something about it and see what the right ones for you would be. Affirmations are another really good one. So I know a lot of us have heard about birth affirmations, but you can also just do daily gratitude affirmations, or just something uplifting into your day. That's another great source of self-care. And then, of course, this is what everyone thinks of when you say self-care, is more that treat yourself, if you guys have seen Parks and Rec. So this is going to be more, let me say, maybe frivolous is how people look at it. So things like the pedicures, the manicures, maybe a massage, which I don't think is frivolous. I think that's pretty important for your life. But more of that pampering style of self-care. Super important, but don't let that be the end point of your self-care. There are lots of ways to practice self-care. All right, so I told you I'd come back to better sleep because this is something we see people in our office for all the time, is getting better sleep, especially kids, but adults as well. And then even adults who are able to sleep, but they're still waking up fatigued. They're not feeling like they got a good night of rest, even if they were asleep for 8 or more hours. So we talk about this all the time. What are some of the other things that you can be doing on top of getting adjusted that will help your sleep? So some of the tips we have is to turn off technology at least 1 hour before bed. So your technology, and yes, the irony is not lost on me that I'm giving this to you through technology. But technology gives off a blue light. It's just the not frequency, but just what it gives off. I'm not very good with the physics of light, but it gives off a blue light, and that actually shuts off your melatonin production. Melatonin is your sleepy hormone. So you want to make sure that you are getting a good night of turning off technology before your good night of rest. The joke is always that if you are trying to get pregnant, there are lots of things you can be doing with that 1 hour before bed that is not technology driven. All right, next one is position. Are you sleeping in a way that is optimal for your comfort and alignment, and therefore is making you get a good, restful night of sleep? So talking about proper positioning for bedtime is usually something I cover elsewhere, but kind of the blanket statement is you would want to lie either on your back with not a pillow that's pushing your head up. You want your head, your whole spine, all the way from your neck down into your pelvis, should be pretty neutral. It shouldn't be up, it shouldn't be down, it shouldn't be twisted one way or the other. You should be pretty neutral. So if you're on your back, you don't want a thick pillow that's pushing your head up. And then if you are on your side, then you would want to have a pillow between your knees, because as women, when we let our knees fall together because of how our hips are wide, it tends to twist our pelvis. So you want to make sure that your hips are nice and level. And then also using a pillow, if you're on your side again, so you see from my ear to my shoulder, that's not a very good angle. If I were to have a pillow there, it should be able to support the weight of my head while I'm lying on it. So once I put my head down on the pillow, it shouldn't do this, nor should it do this. Again, I should stay nice and neutral. So those are some tips on better sleep position. Of course, you always want to make sure that you're committing to an adequate amount of sleep. So if you're going to be having to get up super early the next morning, make sure that you go to bed earlier the night before. And then, do you have a bedtime routine? I know this sounds silly because we usually talk about this with babies having a bedtime routine, or toddlers or kids, but it's also important for us as adults. So, just things that we're doing, kind of sacred, I don't want to say rituals, but habits that we do around bedtime. Make a routine so that you start to train your body that, okay, well, now I'm doing this, which means next I'll do this, which means we're getting closer and closer to bedtime. So, it's just winding your brain down, winding your body down. All right, and then the last thing here with your stress is asking you, how are you tracking? So, one of the things that we talk about is doing too much tracking can actually create a lot of stress. There are tons and tons of ways to track, but some of them might be confusing to you. You might not completely understand how to do it, or just doing too many of them is too stressful. So, my tip is to pick one and stick to it, or at least try it. See how it goes. If you find out that it's not working for you, then switch to a different one. But if you just have one to stick to, it's not going to create as much stress, and you'll be able to focus on just that one versus all the different factors. Just stick to one. That was that point. So, the big thing with stress is that your body has two different modes of function, especially in your nervous system. You have two different modes of function. So you have your fight or flight response. This is your stress response. So really good for when you're running away from a bear, but it shouldn't be your baseline. And then on the opposite side of things is where sleep, digestion, immune function, hormone balance, fertility, those kinds of things happen. So many things that we do in our day really push us to that fight or flight response. So, everything that I talked about today is really trying to encourage you to slow things down, calm your nervous system. We'll talk about other ways to do that in the next couple days, but to shift you over to where you have better balance, better sleep, better digestion, immune function, hormone balance, fertility. That's our goal, because that's really where we grow and thrive more than anything else. So, the first thing I can say for your next steps is to go see a chiropractor. See someone who can assess the function of your nervous system to see where you are. It's so important to just know where you are so we can set a baseline, so we can give recommendations going forward. The next thing is to implement a self care routine. And I can't tell you what that looks like because it's so different for everyone. But that habit tracker that we gave you would be a really great place to start, because we gave you some extra lines where you can write different things in. So you can write in, meditation or gratitude or whatever works best for you to start making that a daily practice as well. And then the last tip here for your next step is to improve sleep. Having a good night of sleep is going to make such a profound difference in so many different areas of your life that you can't not make a commitment to that. All right. So, again, tomorrow we're going to be jumping in to talk about chemical stressors. These hide in lots of different places that you don't realize. So, make sure you join us tomorrow. See you soon.